Silk 106.9.
Welcome back then. So after a couple of weeks of recuperation, kids' holidays, and returning to some form of life as normal, with businesses being back at work and the kids being back at school, the Friday Night Football Club is back with you for a brand new episode. And pleased to say Scotty is joining us. Scotty, it's been a couple of weeks since we've been together, but the world has moved on. The kids are back at school. So how are you finding the school run, mate?
The school run, getting up again at 7:45 in the morning to get the kids up is becoming a challenge, that's for sure. And that's probably a joke, to be honest, to most people. Have to get up like 6 o'clock. But yeah, it's been rough. How about you? You look a little bit more grey since last time we spoke.
That's just life in general, mate. That's life in general. I think I'm one of these that when you get up at 6 o'clock every morning, when somebody says, 7:45's early, I just think, go away. Leave me alone. But yeah, it's. I think life is pretty good. Work is back to normal. Obviously, doing everything at the radio station is starting to pick up again, which is great. But on the footballing front, which is obviously what we're all about, couple of weeks, couple of results have gone past. Maxford FC are still unbeaten
and top of the league, may I add?
Yes, this is. I say unbeaten. We do have to talk about the one defeat. Which has come. But if we start off initially with the results of the past couple of weeks, and the first one being the defeat to Squires Gate in the FA Cup, this was a competition that I don't think we were ever going to win, but I think we could have got a lot further.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the aim was to get to that first round proper, I think. But even if we got to the fourth round qualifying, playing some of the conference teams, but yeah, I think the way we lost it, I mean, we scored 4 goals away again, just like we did at Winsford, but this time we lost the game 6-4. And I know it didn't help. We had a player sent off, right? I think it's that defense again. I think away from home, there's something about our defense away from home. We just don't seem to, and we'll get into it. And let's not be honest. Let's not
get your words out. Don't get your words out.
That bit's going to be
about the bush. The defense is shocking at times.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that bit's going to be cut, right? Yeah, right. Yep. So going back to the Squires Gate, our defense has been swapped and changed around, and we're still trying to find the best defense. And so far, we've not quite got to that point, and that's why losing 6 goals away at home, that's a massive disappointment. I'm sure that Robbie Savage and everyone at Mag would be very disappointed with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like I say, there are mitigating factors around the fact that we've had. Alex Bruce has signed. Obviously, Steve Bruce's son is playing in the Premier League with Hull. I think he got 13 minutes midweek in one of the games and his hamstring went. Lewis Shed, as I'm being told it's pronounced, the youngster that's come from the BTEC setup, has played in defence. And in fairness to him, as a young lad, done pretty well. Coker, obviously, was one of these that got sent off. For me, my question to the football club, and again, they know more about this than I do. But as a football coach, I would say, what are we doing in relation to phases of play? What are we doing as functional practices, 1v1 defending, 2v2 defending, 11v11 phases? And how do we work and understand if a ball's played in behind? So if you've got a centre half or a fullback and a centre half and the ball's played in between the two, so the back four's being turned, how do we defend in them situations? Because I think we've got a decent keeper. I think we've got decent players at the back. I'm just not convinced there's that defensive leadership and unity across the back four, which we need to get out this league.
I also think, though, we've not had midfield cover either. I think the midfield, there's been a clear gap in midfield. And, against the Congleton game, Mendy shored it up a lot better than he's done in any game I've seen so far this season. But that's been the issue for me. The midfield has kind of let the defence down a little bit. And obviously, the defence can only do so much, and then the keeper can only do so much. So I think it all starts, for me, from midfield. We've got no one controlling the game. So it's either going in our half or going in the opposition's half. There's no kind of controlling it and slowing it down a little bit.
It looks as though, and again, I've only seen a friendly, so I'm due to go to the game against Vauxhall Motors on, I think, the 14th of September. So I'm really looking forward to that, to see how things have developed. But it's as if there's the defensive side of the team, attacking side, and there's no transition in the middle. And I think for me, I would just like to see, again, as I go back to phases of play where we work on defending from the front, the reaction and recovery runs from the holding midfielder or the three central midfielders if we're playing a 4-3-3, who actually sits in. But I think for me, consistency, Scotty, is the problem, because how many times have we put the same back five? All right, Piercy in goal, ever present, but how many times have we put the same back five out this season?
I'm not sure we've had an unchanged team at all this season, have we?
No. And this is my point. I think at this level of football, you need to be in a position where you can put out your best 11. Does Danny Whitaker know his best 11? He might do, he might not do. I don't know. But do we have the best back four? Injuries will always cause problems. But what I do like, moving away from slaughtering the Siltman's defence, is reactions. Because to me, as a football coach and a manager, when you lose a game, it's how you react. So we go to Barnoldswick the following weekend. Barnoldswick flying high, looking like they're going to make a name for themselves this season, followed by a bank holiday Monday game against Congleton, who, as we know from being down the road, two sides in the mix that can put pressure on Mac. I would have taken 4 points.
Yeah.
We got 6.
Yeah, we did very well that weekend. Barnoldswick, it was a tough game, I think, at Barnoldswick, and we knew that they had a good start to the season. I think we got two early goals, and then I think Barnoldswick scored theirs, and I think it's great that we're going to these little nice places, but I don't know if it's because we're used to playing on our different pitch to everyone else in the league, and this happened at Ashton as well. Pitches at this level seem to be not necessarily perfect, not necessarily level either. So it's kind of like when we're doing training and stuff, are these things going into training? I'm sure they will be, but it's that's the kind of an interesting point of are we putting too much blame on the players? Is it almost the conditions we need to get used to as well?
And I think this was one of the questions and one of the considerations when the season started, was the fact that, yes, playing at the leasing.com is going to be amazing. It's a bowling green. It will always be flat no matter what the weather. The only thing that will change is how quickly the ball moves off the surface, if it's wet or if it's dry. When you go to places like Ashton, you go to Winsford, you go to Barnoldswick, they're not going to cut the grass for us. They're not going to make it like a carpet, because that sits in our advantage. And this is where I'm sure they do. Do you know what I mean? And I'm positive the club do train and work on these different environments. But for me, that will be the difference between winning the league and going up and just falling short, is how we react on the road. Because at home, as you've said, defensively we look strong, we score goals. I'd like to see us score more. I think that may have been sorted. But defensively, when we go away, can we go to a Northwich Victoria on a cold November Wednesday night? Can we go to Padiham on a January evening when it's absolutely throwing it down and we've got sleet coming down and the grass is like yay long? Do you know what I mean? Can we play these type of games and win? Technically, we have the ability. It's whether we've got the grit. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah, and I think a lot of our players we can see a lot of our players, they're very young players, and I think we got this team together within 5-6 weeks, looked at it, we've made a couple of changes, but now we're starting to get some experience in. Obviously, Bruce is in the team. Hopefully, we're going to bring some more experience in as well. So I think having that experience as well will help the younger lads a lot.
Absolutely. And as we move forward, then obviously fixtures coming up. It's a nice distraction this coming weekend, because it's Winterton Rangers. It's a trip over to the east of the country, over towards sunny Scunny, a little bit closer to where I'm originally from, in the FA Vars. But the pressure is on with this one, Scotty, because this is one that Robbie Savage has openly said he wants to win.
Yeah. Well, we should win. There's no reason why we shouldn't, but Winterton Rangers, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've got no clue about what their setup is, what their outfit is, what even their pitch looks like. So, there's all good and well saying that we could go there and we should win. But as we saw against Ashton on Saturday, not necessarily so. The conditions, again, may go against us, but maybe we're making too much excuses. Maybe actually the matter of fact is we should be definitely winning and we should be going out there and doing it. And we need to do everything we can to do that.
Absolutely. And the thing is, I know that Winterton Rangers play at the same level that obviously Mac FC are playing at. Their season's been a bit mixed. So we're in a position where we're not going up against a form side, but we're not going up against an out of form side. So going to Winterton, we've got the journey to consider at the weekend. Obviously, the lads will travel in the LSH Auto Mercedes buses, so they'll be travelling in a bit of comfort and a bit of style. But I think overall, not only is Saturday a game that the club wants to win, the whole competition is on Robbie Savage's radar.
Is it not putting a bit too much pressure on some of the younger people, though, saying we're going to win the league, we need to win the cup, and then being our objectives for the season? Given in mind that this team has been together a couple of months. Is it a bit unfair to expect them to win the league, or is it down to the club to make sure those players do win the league? So,
I think this is where what I like is that you set your stall out from day one. We're in the league to win it. We're in the FA Vars to win it. If you're not good enough, you won't be here. As a manager, I had a young kid side, and I said to the parents when I was running them, I said, look, I believe we've got a great side. My intentions are to go out and win every game. If you just want your kids to play for a team where they get minutes, go and sign for our second team. This is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
As it happened, the kids team won everything. Do you know what I mean? We did exactly what I'd set out to do. So I suppose there is the argument of, is it a lot of pressure? Is it added pressure that maybe some of the younger players could buckle under? Or is it the club saying, this is what we're going to do, this is when we're going to do it, and if you're not good enough, off you pop? Because let's be honest, we've got a lot of fixtures coming up. We've got the FA Vars on Saturday. We've got Vauxhall Motors on Tuesday night, which I'm going to go to. We've got Northwich Victoria coming up the week after. They've had a bit of a mixed bag of results over the last couple of weeks. They'll be looking to get a bit of a scalp because nobody's beaten the Siltmen in the league this season.
It could happen. I mean, Vauxhall Motors, Litherland, Longridge, I'd hope we'd go there and get 9 points out of those 3 games. Yeah, Northwich is definitely going. Northwich will know how to play in this league. Northwich have been around for a while. And even though they've had a bit of a mixed bag, they're still, 5th in the league? They're still only 4 points from us. I mean, looking at the top of our league anyway, a lot of the Cheshire teams are up there as well. We're obviously top. Congleton are 4th, Northwich are 5th, Winsford are 7th. But there's not that many points between them. So it's not a given we're going to go to anywhere and pick up points. But for someone like a Northwich, I think that's where we need to definitely up our game.
Exactly. And like you say, drawing against Ashton in the league, you would have expected to go there and win. But in fairness, Congleton would have expected to go there and win and got beat. So we've gone one better. I think the weekend's results kind of worked in Mac's favour because you've got Wythenshawe, you've got Congleton and Mac all drawing. Vic's obviously with the winners that weekend by getting the result they got, but again, didn't particularly go away. But before we get on to the other sides, we've mentioned it briefly, but there's been a few ins and outs at the leasing.com. Ryan Rogers has gone on loan to Whitton Albion.
Yep.
We believe Kieran Kennedy is no longer with the football club. Kieran Curtis was sent over to Northwich Victoria. I believe he's been released from there as well.
Okay.
That is my understanding. Don't know for definite, but he wasn't available last night in the game. So maybe he's been released. Maybe he's unavailable through injury. I don't know. But didn't really cut it at Mike. Lovely player, lovely lad, just probably not what we're looking for. But I suppose the most important thing for Siltman fans is the players that's come in because we've signed a big centre off. Yeah.
Yes, Lewis Morrison.
Yeah.
2-year deal as well, and he played at Stafford Rangers this season too. So for me, that's a big intent. If you're signing a player for a 2-year contract at this level, I guess pressure's on Lewis as well. But, that's a big signing for me.
Absolutely. And for me, the biggest signing is one we can't actually name on this podcast because I know it's done. The club know it's done. The player knows it's done. But unfortunately, the announcement hasn't been made because I believe we are waiting for some clearance to come through. So as much as I am absolutely excited about this one, because this is Mike Wayne taking credit. This is a player I said we should go for at the very start of the new campaign. Didn't happen because Mike knows nothing. I believe the deal is done. But
tell you what though, Dwyer, we're gonna obviously Tom Clare, Barry McNally, and Mr. No Name. That is a strong. That is going forward. That is amazing.
Yeah, anybody who watches this podcast who is not a Maxford FC fan, and I am a Mac fan. I mean, I love Congleton. I love the people that work at Congleton. They're amazing. The work that goes off behind the scenes is exactly how a football club should be run. The guys at Vix are the nicest, friendliest, most welcoming people I've ever worked with. Steve Wilkes is an absolute diamond over there, and again, shows me loads of love with the sports on a Saturday. But as a Mac fan, this is an exciting signing. I would love to say he is, but I can't because I'll get thrashed by probably Robbie Savage, Smethers, Whittaker, and the rest of them. But for me, this is a statement of intent.
I wouldn't mind seeing you thrashed by them guys, actually. I think that made for a good podcast.
Hey, you keep your dirty thoughts to yourself, young man. But obviously, as a football club, it's not just about Mac FC because the reserves have been flying, doing really well. And the women started at the weekend with an absolute corker of a result, mate. What can you tell us about the reserves first?
Well, the reserves won their game against Pilkington Reserves. So that's, I believe, 3 out of 3 now. And then they went to play Newton on the Wirral on Saturday in the Cheshire Amateur Cup. It was 4-4 after full time. And let's just mention that Newton are 3 leagues above Mac FC Reserves. Yeah. And then we went on to win the game 4-1 on penalties. I believe the goalkeeper, Elliot, he saved a couple of penalties. So, Ed was very happy when I spoke to him on Saturday. And what a result that was for the lads. If we're showing we're beating teams and scoring 4 goals against teams that are 3 leagues higher than us, then I think that shows what quality we've got in our reserves.
And the thing is, to be fair, Scotty, we had Ed on the podcast just before we took our break. The podcast is due to go live on silt1069.com from tomorrow. So you'll be able to go back and see the 3 from previous. But one of the things that Ed was talking about was the fact of the transition and the understanding and the amazing communication from the first team to reserves. And we've obviously seen Rocco Fragapani, who's been part of both. We've seen Lewis Shed, who's gone from the B-Tech through reserves up into the first team. I think we're going to see a lot more of Ed's players because Ed's not only a great person, he's a great coach, but he's also fantastic as a man to guide people up to the next level so that Danny Whittaker's got that squad depth to pick from because he's going to need it.
Yeah, and I think it goes below that as well. We saw Robbie Savage's under-16s play in the FA Youth Cup. They lost 2-0 to Chorley, but, from what I'm told, they made a great account of themselves as well. So, I think it's feeding all the way down.
Absolutely. And then the women, first season, inaugural season for Maxford FC women, they go to Stalybridge Celtic, who's been around a couple of years, and just pop 12 in. Just casually 12, like that.
12-1. I spoke to Sarah Carver about it, and I thought, wow, are we in the situation the reserves are in where maybe we should have been putting a bit higher, or is it just the fact that maybe Stalybridge has got quality like we have? She said a bit of both. So it'll be interesting what they do when they play this Sunday. They were playing Stockport in the second game.
Isn't it? This is the test at the weekend because after one game, as we all know, you can play one game at a level and get an absolute resounding result, but you could go out the week after and play a team that's been in around and get beat 3-0.
Yeah, sure.
That kind of levels you off, doesn't it?
Yeah, but going back to the reserves a second, there'll be the first test, I believe, for Mac reserves this weekend. Goalborn Sports, they're playing at the leasing.com stadium, 2:00 kickoff. You can go down if you can't make it to Scunthorpe. And Goalborn have won 4 out of 4 so far, so they're the ones who are, very good start for them. So I think that may be our first real test.
Absolutely. And the thing is, as we've said, when we look at the Mac's first team, the reserves and the women, all had great starts to the season, no league defeats. And ultimately, we want to see the first team go on and do well in the FA Vars. I'd love to be on the bus going down to Wembley for the FA Vars final, as I'm sure you would. But most importantly, when we look at it from a community perspective, what's happening now with the reserves, the women and the youth setup, as a community, I've just got to say that I think Rob Smethers, Robbie Savage, Danny Whittaker, Paul Maguire and all the people involved, they said they were going to do something and they're doing it. So I have to take my hat off to all of them. They're doing a great job.
I mean, Paul Maguire's done fantastic for a number of years, even when they weren't associated with the football club. The fact they are associated now is fantastic from my point of view. But people aren't necessarily going to always agree with Robbie's methods. But do you know what? If we get to that end goal, then surely that's what we want anyway. So
absolutely,
the methods aside, I think we've got an amazing setup. I really do.
Absolutely. And if we move on to some of our other local sides in Cheshire then. So Congleton, flying start to the season. The big signings of Tom Pope, of Gary Roberts, obviously Richard Duffy stepping up from assistant manager to manager, still playing as well.
Sure.
Great start to the season. Bit of a hiccup against Ashton. They came down to the leasing.com, made a good account of himself.
First
I
half,
felt a little bit sorry for him. I thought injuries to Gary Roberts and then to Duffy kind of just completely kicked the wind out of him. But again, they're in the mix. For me, they're a side that need to be watched, and they've got Vauxhall this weekend in the Northwest Counties.
Yeah.
What's your take on Congleton? You've seen them against Mac.
Yeah.
They've had a good start. What do you think?
I thought, they've got a good team. Gary Roberts looked pretty instrumental in terms of their set pieces. Once Gary Roberts went off, they didn't quite have the same edge with corners and everything. But I thought first half of that game, they were very good. Unlucky not to score. I think we kept Tom Pope out of the game, really. I don't think, that was what he wasn't really involved too much in that game as well. And to be honest, I thought Congleton were unlucky. We obviously won 1-0. Was it deserved? Maybe, maybe not. I think it was close, and we all expected it to be close. And there was times where it got very feisty, and which is kind of what you wanted from a local derby. But yeah, it was great. 3,500 there though on Bank Holiday Monday was just amazing to see. I can't even remember the last time that even happened, and the atmosphere was amazing. I'm not going to get into any negatives on what happened at that game, but do you know what? I think in the end, probably the best team won, and I think that game was showing our intent for the league this season. That victory was really important.
Yeah, and I think the games against Congleton and Northwich Vicks, Winsford again having another great start to the season. But Vicks have had a bit of a mixed bag. They were the benefactors, I think is the word.
That's a nice word.
Yeah, I don't know where it's come from. I've even got it. It's not even written down.
Wow.
They were definitely the benefactors this weekend of Mac drawing Withenshaw and Congleton drawing. But then last night, I was actually at Wincham Park. Wednesday night, I was at Wincham Park with the guys from Northwich Vicks, and they were torn to pieces by Skelmersdale, who are a good side, played some nice football, obviously had the FA Cup run last year where they were on the telly and made a fair amount of money. But I have to say that for me at the moment, Vicks are struggling with the actual squad and being able to put the players on the pitch because Tom Schofield's been out injured and been away. Joe Camozzi, the skipper, he's been away, he's been out. And obviously after being through COVID and not being able to go away with the families, as you will know, when it comes to a time of having family time, you normally do it pre-season. They've not had that opportunity. So Brad Lynch, striker, scores 3 goals, falls off a roof at work. He's got 20 odd stitches in his leg. He's out missing. They've struggled to put their full side. I was talking to Wilkesy last night, and he was saying to me that in 2 or 3 weeks, Mike, we'll be absolutely fine because I'll have my squad. But the results have been all right. We've just dropped some clangers and some silly. And I think for me, had they won last night, it would have made for an interesting couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think they beat Padiham, they beat Litherland, so I think they had a couple of decent results before last night as well. They're obviously still up there in the mix, and we're obviously very fortunate as a football club at Macclesfield FC. We've kind of we can get players in quite easily. Let's get this right. That's not how it works really at this level, is it? You might get players in, but you don't, not the kind of way that Macclesfield are doing it. And I think for Northwich, they're going to have they've got a great team. And I think, obviously they're unfortunate to have some injuries out, but, I've got no doubt that they'll be up there, thereabouts anyway. I think Wilkes is fantastic, and he's certainly the man to do that.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Wilkes has won this league. He knows how to win this league. He knows what he needs to do. Steve Pickup at the side of him, Scotty Campbell as a coaching staff, they're a great set of folk. And the guys that work behind the scene, it's a wonderful football club. Do you know what I mean? It really is. I'm not saying it's perfect, no football club is, but they are very hospitable when I go over. But I say last night for me, it was just apparent that when the squad's together, they will be a force to reckon with. Players like Josh Winder, Ryan Winder works his absolute socks off for 90 minutes. Matty Birchall is an absolute talent. But I think one thing that you mentioned, I'm going to pick up on this, is obviously Mac have the ability to go out and bring players in as and when and if they choose. Yeah. What that's doing is that's forcing other clubs to put their players on contract. Yeah. So because they've got to look after their valuable assets. Yeah. So when you look at different football clubs, obviously players like Tom Pope and Gary Roberts, I would imagine, are on contracts Congleton. Joe Duckworth, I would imagine, is probably on contract at Winsford. Rudy Masamba, centre-half, I would imagine, is on a contract at Biggs. Are they putting them on contracts because they are that good and they mean something to the club, or are they doing it to keep Mac at bay?
I don't know. I mean, I think if you're looking as a football player, you see, well, who's most likely in this league to forge out a career. If you want to be into football and you want to forge a career going up them leagues, then maybe Macclesfield is your place to do it at the minute. But I certainly think Mac being in this league has changed, the last couple of years, and haven't really counted as much because they've both been curtailed because of COVID. But I think they've certainly changed the way teams are going to approach all this, because, rarely do you get a team like Mac in this league who, with the facilities they have, with the amount of fans they have, and, we're bringing, and 4 times over, given they're more fans in attendance than they would normally. Yeah. I think that having a team like Mac in this league is a very different thing of enigma, and it's not necessarily a case of, and there's been examples this season of we've gone for players who put 7 days in, haven't got them, but there will certainly be a lot of, we'll put that in and likely we may get them. So I think I think that's almost needed if you want to keep your best players in this league.
And the thing is, we've mentioned attendances before, mate. Do you know what I mean? I remember looking, I think it was which one was it? I think it was Winsford. We took, was it 1,000? There was 1,000 fans at Winsford. I don't think Winsford have ever had 1,000 people in the ground.
Yeah,
the stewarding at Winsford was phenomenal.
Yeah,
but you look at the average attendance in the Northwest counties, and you're talking 275, 350. Then you look at the leasing.com, and it's 2,217, and it's like. And don't get me wrong, we're in a fortunate position. We're a football league club, or a football league set of fans.
Yeah.
Supporting our Phoenix from the Flames. AFC Bury will be a very similar one. I mean, you look at this weekend, we've got the FA Bars games. Mac are obviously on the road at Winston. Northwich Victoria welcome AFC Bury to Wincham Park. So they're expecting anything between 600 and 1,000 fans at Wincham Park. It's great for football.
Yeah, absolutely. What's wrong with having teams that are bringing all these away fans like Ashton? Ashton, unfortunately, only kind of average about 50 to 100 people, and they got over 400 there on Saturday. So for them, 400 people is massive. And imagine that's going to spur the players on a little bit more. I mean, actually playing in kind of the realms of having fans around in like a real life football situation, because a lot of the time that's kind of, that's why people are going to step up their game against Mac. But yeah, Northwich and Bury, I was looking at that thinking that's quite a tasty little tie there.
Absolutely. And the thing is, mate, when you look at the numbers, I mean, you've just mentioned Ashton, 400 people going to the ground. If they've all paid a tenner to get in, Ashton have made $4,000.
Yeah.
From one football match. Now, throughout COVID, throughout the pandemic, clubs and local establishments have been begging the government for some support for grassroots facilities, grassroots football, not just football, all sports. Yeah. So, in a way, to have Mac in the league, that's put $4,000 in Ashton's pocket. So if that gives Ashton the opportunity to run financially sound for the rest of the season, good on Ashton. Good on him.
Yeah, and let's not get it wrong. People who are playing in this league, people at the top end may pay a little bit more for players, but actually players are only getting about 20, 30 quid a match for a lot of these teams in this league as well. So $4,000 probably does quite a bit.
Absolutely. And then obviously it's FA Bars weekend, so Winsford take on Stapen Hill, a side I know quite a bit about from my time in the East Midlands Counties Football League, which is obviously the East Midlands version of the Northwest Counties. But Stapen Hill were a very ugly side, all very big, very tall, powerful, strong, couple of quick strikers, very good side. So Winsford are up against it this weekend.
Interesting. And then Congleton are playing at Vauxhall Motors in the Northwest Counties. Any reason why Congleton aren't in the FA Vars?
Congleton, I should really know this. I have a feeling that Congleton come into the Vars later because of how far they got last year.
Oh, okay.
That's my understanding. I believe, is it the first qualifying round, this one?
Yeah, that's right.
I believe that in the next round, we get some of the Step 5 sides come in. But I think because of Congleton's run, I think Congleton come in the next round because of where they got to last season in the Cup. That's my understanding. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that is, from memory, I believe Congleton come in a round later because of their performance in last year's competition.
Sure, that makes sense then. So yeah, so they're obviously playing in the league, so it's maybe a good time for them to get some 3 points on the board, and kind of after their games against Ashton and after their draw with Runcorn, try and kind of get some more points really.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, Runcorn, you just mentioned them, not really torn up any trees in the league. Do you know what I mean? But they picked up a draw, and I think they won 4-1 on Tuesday night against. Who did they play Tuesday night? They played somebody Tuesday night. I think they won 4-1. But what I'm getting at is there's a lot of sides in this league who Withenshaws weren't expecting them to be around there.
And they're second.
Yeah, Winsford are in 7th at the moment. But again, I think Joe Duckworth's been missing for a game or two, from what I've read. He's been missing. Vauxhall Motors, I would expect more from them. AFC Liverpool, another strong side. So, yes, Mac has had 3 points clear, but there's a lot of legs and a lot of running and a lot of work to be done between now and the end of the season, mate.
Yeah, so Runcorn did win 4-2 away at Ashton on Tuesday night, but AFC Liverpool a bit of surprise. I was expecting more from them this season, but I'd imagine they're very disappointed with their start. They went down to, I think when Squires Gate beat Mac in the FA Cup, that's kind of catapulted them because they've not stopped winning ever since. They won against AFC Liverpool 4-1 in midweek. So, and there's only 70 people there. So that kind of gives you the comparison of sometimes just the level of people going here. I don't think there was a game over 200 on Tuesday night. I think the highest was actually 141.
It's just crazy how they different things can be a catalyst and can propel things on. Like say Squires Gate have gone on a steady run since. Ashton had a horrid start to the season, but I think the manager went out and did what Mac are doing, moved a few players around, did a few bits and pieces. They've picked results up. As we've mentioned, Northwich Fix need to just get all the players fit and available. Congleton, I think they just came up against a side that were going to get a turning form in Ashton when they got beaten, obviously, the defeat to Mac. But they need to bounce back this weekend against Vauxhall. And for me, I think there's only one thing missing out of Maxfield for me, and that is giving somebody a good hiding. That's the one thing, a good hiding and a clean sheet. And I think for Piercy in goal, I think for the lads that are playing at the back, I think that's crucial. But again, for me, I would just like to see a little bit of consistency in that starting 11.
Yeah, and I also think I'd like to see a bit more feed to Tom Clare as well. I think, he's going to bag your goals, but he isn't going to run from midfield to get the goals. You've got the likes of Dwyer, you've got the likes of Barry McNally, who are the ones who are going to do the runners. And so I think a bit more feed into Tom Clare, from my point of view, will kind of get the goals. And the fact that, he's the main man up top and he scored so many already without really too much of that happening, too much feed for him, from my point of view. I think that just shows you what a great striker Clare is.
Absolutely. And the thing is, we can score goals. And the most important thing is that Mac are currently sat top of the table with Withenshaw just behind, Congleton in the mix, Vix are in the mix, Winsford are in the mix. There's a lot of ground to be covered between now and Christmas. The games are going to come thick and fast. But I suppose for me, what's been from the start of the season then, what's been your highlight so far?
You know what? I think the highlight so far, from my point of view, and it's not even a football thing, and it sounds a bit soft, but actually how welcoming some of these teams are. You kind of go to these and you can almost expect to turn up to maybe a pitch and not really have much there, but actually some of the facilities, albeit sometimes it is just a clubhouse or someone just selling burgers or food off from a table, that kind of thing, is how welcoming. The likes of Barnoldswick have been really welcoming. Winterton have been super welcoming. So from my point of view, so far, it's that we've got our haters. Let's not get that wrong. But at the same time, we've been made to feel so welcome in this league as well. And I think that's a great thing as well. So for me, so far, it's the humbleness of being in this league so far, which I've quite enjoyed. Going to Winsford was a bit of an eye opener. It was very different, but at the same time, it's it is what it is. It's this level of football which we're not used to, and actually, I'm quite enjoying.
Yeah, and this is, I suppose, for me, it's my answer to that was going to be along the similar lines to yourself. It was going to be down to the fans, because I think the response from the Maxfield fans since the previous club went out of business to the way it's reacted now, and I know we say this quite a lot, mate, but it's been the reaction of the fans, not just the home games. We expect them at theleasing.com. But it's on the Tuesday nights and the Wednesday night when you're travelling up to nether regions of the Northwest when you're getting 400, 500 and 600 fans turn up.
Yeah.
For me, the highlight of the season so far has been the crowds, because for 90% of the time, they've been amazing.
Yeah, even at the leasing.com stadium, I often sit just under where bar 27 is, and hearing the Star Lane pretty much all the way through the game, they're singing and they're making atmosphere, and it's like that's I've not heard that for so long, and it's really nice to hear.
Absolutely. So then, this coming weekend is FA Vars action. It's Mac FC on the road at Winterton Rangers. We've got Winsford taking on Stapen Hill, and we've got Northwich Victoria looking forward to entertaining AFC Bury. We've got Congleton in the Northwest Counties. That's the league they play in. Taking on Vauxhall Motors. 4 games for our local sides. Just finally then, Scotty, what's your predictions, mate, for the weekend?
I think we don't know what's going to happen with Winterton. I'd expect to win, but I don't know. I think Winsford, given what you've said to me, and I know Joe Duckworth. I know he's on a dual registration with 1874, I believe.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if he's going to be there or not. I think he makes all the difference though when he's playing for Winsford. And then the Vics versus Bury. Bury have got a great following, but I think the Vics should win that. And I think Congleton at Vauxhall Motors. They are what they are. They're a car manufacturer, aren't they? But I think, but I don't really know much Vauxhall Motors, to be honest. But from what I've seen so far this season, they've not set the league on fire, and I'd expect Congleton to want to take advantage of that.
Absolutely, and again for me, I believe we'll get a win at Vics. I expect a win from Mac. I think Congleton winning the league. The only one that, unfortunately, I have to say I think may come a cropper this weekend, because I know what Stapen Hill are about, is Winsford. I can see Stapen Hill beating them. But again, we will touch on this next week on the Friday Night Football Club. If you like what you're listening to, or if you think these two talk an absolute load of crap, that's absolutely fine. You can like, you can comment, you can subscribe. It's on our YouTube page. It's on silk1069.com, and we'll share it across various platforms. Next week, we'll talk a little bit more about the Cheshire Football League and have a look at that as well. And we will react to everything that happens this coming weekend. Scotty, thanks very much for your time again, mate. Where are you off to Saturday?
I'm off to the leasing.com stadium, obviously.
The
reserves are at home, so I'm going to check them out. And then I believe me and you are going down on Tuesday night together.
Yes, Tuesday night, leasing.com, Vauxhall Motors. We're going to see the car dealers against the Silk Men.
Excellent.
I'm looking forward to it because it's the first competitive match I will have seen.
Call yourself a fan, Michael.
Disgraceful.
Your station, Silk 106.9.